All right. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you all, and welcome to our second Innovation Boot Camp webinar, E4Impact Foundation. I'd like to thank you all for joining us today, and thank you to those who joined us last week on last week's webinar. And we thank you for all the questions. And last week we covered the business model design, and we had a great session and great questions that covered how to build a business model design and how to apply it to the right industry, to the right sector, what kind of help to get, look at value propositions. So it was a great session and I'd like to thank you. So we're back this week. As we said, we'll be running these webinars every Tuesday. And today, as they say, it is very important to invest in knowledge. The best interest you can develop in life is to invest in knowledge. And we thought, why not invest time and knowledge in getting to know investors, in getting to know the criteria that investors use. So today we have two very established, experienced investors in our midst. We're very honored to welcome Stefano and Dr. Guramatunhu. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Betha.
Thank you very much. Right, so first of all, I'd like to introduce to everyone, as you know, these webinars, we are also targeting potential participants or entrepreneurs who would like to join our programs across Africa. Our vision is to grow the largest Pan-African alliance of universities that have a strong brand and are able to develop impact entrepreneurs. So if I could just share the screen and just introduce to you E4Impact. Right. So once again, I would love to share our vision, and our main aim is to train impact entrepreneurs and teach entrepreneurship as well, but we do not want to focus on teaching. We want to focus on training impact entrepreneurs. And we do this with a large alliance of partners in our alliance who help us build this vision. The E4Impact is a spin-off of the Graduate Business School at the Università Cattolica del São Croce di Milano. And we are dedicated, as I said, to build entrepreneurs who are conscious of building or conscious of their environment, and who are conscious of social entrepreneurship, who are conscious of their community. We are building job creators, not job seekers, people who are keen to grow strong communities around them and their enterprises. We're very passionate to train and coach entrepreneurs, and at the moment we are in 17 African countries, and we have recently started programs in the Middle East. Our support partner universities come in to provide local Pan-African professors and lecturers who hold programs for us and lectures for us on the ground for our MBA program and our certificate program. We'd love to develop partnerships, and the aim is to link companies that are in the partner countries that we're in, and Italian companies and if African countries, to trade and develop market linkages. The advantages of joining the E4Impact families. We are passionate about investing in entrepreneurs that are willing to contribute to the economies of their countries. So therefore, up to now, 2.5 million has been passed hands in terms of investment. Our alumni is growing every day. And in the last 2 months, we've celebrated with over 7 countries hosting graduations for their editions, be the first editions or the existing editions. So it's been a month of celebrations in Ethiopia, Sierra Leone, Zimbabwe, across Africa. And we are building alumni that is also building a client base. We're also building alumni that is also assisting others to get finance through their businesses, and also getting finance for that alumni. 81% that got a turnover increase due to the interventions of our programs that are very practical and encourage entrepreneurs to grow their idea. Our programs, we encourage entrepreneurs at idea stage. We encourage entrepreneurs at startup stage, 6 months to 1 year. We also encourage entrepreneurs at growth stage to join our entrepreneurs. And our program is such that we encourage growth and we encourage strategic partnerships, which are sealed after the MBA or after our certificate program. Our most prized aspect of our programs is the fact that the schedule is very flexible. We know we are working with entrepreneurs that have a very hectic program. They're growing. During this time, during COVID, it's been very tough to get businesses back on track. So we've got very flexible online. Our MBA and our ICE programs, which is the certificate, have all gone online, where we give actionable tools to apply to your business. We make sure you walk away with an action point that you can apply the very next day. We are also creating international entrepreneurs who do the training. Our boot camps are run in conjunction with the local lecturers, with international professors across the world, from as far as America and Europe and the USA. Coaching and mentoring is something we're very passionate about, as we believe that when you stand on the shoulders of giants, you reach far. So we have a mentorship and coaching session running in all our programs, where the business coach has an opportunity to have one-on-one sessions with all our entrepreneurs in our programs. And as today, our focus is on investors, access to investors locally and internationally. We encourage our partner universities to create a community of investors, a local community of investors, a local community of professors, professionals, and experts in all sectors who come and are guest speakers in our programs. And of course, we cannot move on without talking about the tech world and digitalization and the global village that has been created because of digital platforms. So we have B2B fairs. We also have business summit, which happens in Milan every year, and our entrepreneurs get to travel. We hope soon, this year or next year, we'll be managing to send our entrepreneurs in our programs. And most of our programs have a double accreditation, where with the partner university and Università Cattolica in Italy. So women, we cannot go and carry on without acknowledging that we are very passionate. 33% of our participants have been women who have grown their businesses to great scale and heights, and we encourage youth and programs and workshops through our accelerators that are in Kenya. Is one of our oldest E4Impact accelerator, working on a lot of programs, and we encourage the youth to join and become our alumni. Today, I'm going to share with you the 6 countries that have recently joined our family, and we are growing our programs there. That is in Ethiopia. Please contact Mikedela, Rwanda, Benjamin, Eswatini, Sandile, in Ghana, Andrews, Egypt, Farida. And my name is Bertha Ndlovu. I'm the Southern Africa Area Manager for E4Impact Foundation. Thank you, guys. May I take this opportunity to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Solomon Guramatunhu, who hails from Zimbabwe, where I'm based at the moment. And he is a very established philanthropist, businessman, and health practitioner of great note. Dr. Guramatunhu was educated at the University of Zimbabwe, and specialized in Scotland, and did his postgraduates in Fellow Royal College of Edinburgh, England, and the United Kingdom. Current positions: he is the medical director of the Greenwood Park Eye Center, founder and CEO of Optinova IK Africa, founder and chairman of the Guramatunhu Family Trust, chairman, National Gallery of Zimbabwe, patron of the Zimbabwe Rural Library Trust. In terms of investment, he's into stocks, real estate, hospitality, cryptocurrencies, and art collection. Dr. Guramatunhu, I welcome you, and I will leave this opportunity to you to speak to our participants and also get to introduce yourself. We encourage our speakers to introduce yourself, as every moment in the E4Impact experience is a learning curve. As you speak, our entrepreneurs pick on points that they also need to incorporate as they develop themselves. Welcome, and over to you, Dr. Guramatunhu.
Well, thank you very much, Bertha. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Good. Yeah. Well, thank you for inviting me. It's such an honor for me to interact with the youth, because I believe the future of our continent and even the individual countries lie with the youth. Therefore, this event is very important, and your program is most important. You've already told everybody what I do. I do have, well, I'm an eye specialist, and I have my own practice, but I also have this business, Optinova. We have now 10 optical shops, and our staff come from as far as Ghana, and we also have some Filipinos, and we have Malawians, optometrists working for us. And we're also involved in training. Optinova, our company, has a private-public partnership with Bindura University of Science Education. So we are training optometrists together with the university, and our first graduates, in fact, will be this year. So that's going very well. And real estate, I have a lot of interest in that. We also do a bit of agriculture. But as you mentioned, stocks, we've been very active on the Zimbabwean Stock Exchange. But right now, my passion is with blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies. We are very, very active in that. To share my experience and my knowledge with participants, I have to tell you first that I strongly believe that Africa is now the future of the world. And I've heard that the world cannot do without Africa, especially sub-Saharan Africa. But sub-Saharan Africa can do without the world, which means all these entrepreneurs, this is your big chance. You are going to do so well. We are going to create multimillionaires and billionaires. And I think the head of the FDB was saying that the next millionaires and billionaires from Africa will come from agriculture. Well, that's just one aspect of business, but there are lots of other business that you can participate in. I need to point out the fact that when investors think of investing their money, obviously they're looking for good returns. And let's always remember that we are not the only ones on the globe. There are lots of other entrepreneurs in Asia, South America. So we are competing for investments with all these other countries in these regions. Therefore, it's important that we be very clear about what we want to invest in. And just as an analysis of what most investors look at, they look at a proposal and they take this proposal through the fire system, which means they look at the full potential of that proposal. What are the chances of mass adoption of whatever proposal one has? And I think you all know that we are looking for solutions to problems. And that's how ideas and projects have mass adoption, and they create lots of wealth. The next thing is income. So they're going to rate all these things, whether it's the full potential is high, or it's medium, or it's low. Income, is it high? Is it likely to be medium or low? And then the risk. Because as you know, as entrepreneurs, every project carries an amount of risk. And investors hate losing money. They're going to lose money. If you're an investor, you're going to be prepared to lose money. But a lot of investors obviously would like to avoid it. So which means as an entrepreneur, you have to think very hard on your project, what the risk profile is like. And lastly, the effort, because some projects you just have to work so hard, you have to put so many hours, so much sweat. And the question is it worth it? Because people are investors, they scout all over the world, and they're looking for projects which, with minimal effort, you can have what they call asymmetric betting, as it were, where you put a little, but the potential for huge profits is amazing. So investors look for that rather than to go into a project where, after working so hard, after so many months or even years of toiling, the revenue streams are very low. So in summary, the full potential of the project, the income, the risk, the effort. And as I said, is it high? Is it medium? Is it low? That, I think, basically is the approach of most investors. I think it'll be more interesting when we go to the question and answer session. But in brief, that's what I would like to give you. And I'm quite happy to share with you on particular projects that I've been involved in. Thank you, Bertha. I think I'll stop right there.
Great. Thank you very much, Doc. And our next presenter will be joining us a little bit later on. That is Stefano. He'll join us a little bit later on. So we can move on to question and answer session at the moment with Doc. So if anyone has a question for Dr. Guramatunhu, please come through. You mentioned income, risk, effort. I'm an entrepreneur. I have, like in our program, we incorporate entrepreneurs at idea stage, entrepreneurs at startup stage, and entrepreneurs at growth stage. The question is always, when is it best to start looking for an investor? And I'll turn it around and say, when do you feel it best to invest in such a scenario in a entrepreneur who's at growth stage, who's at startup stage?
Well, what's exciting these days is to be an angel investor to all these startups. But again, we go through the system. Well, this project, when it has its full potential, what is it going to look like? This entrepreneur, this project, what are the chances of mass adoption for whatever they're trying to do? And what's the likely income? And of course, what risk are we taking? And as I say, how much effort do we have to put into this? So we can be angel investors. We can start very, very early. When people are starting, we can look at the idea and analyze the idea, and also we look for experts in those fields who can also help us to analyze some of these projects. So yeah, even very early we can get it, and also even once it's starting to at the prototype stage, we can also get involved.
Great. If anyone has a question, please go ahead. But I know that some questions were sent before, but if anyone has a question at the moment, please go ahead. Right, a question has just come in. How do we measure the risk in terms of it being small, medium, and high? This is coming from, I hope I pronounced that well, Yes. How do we measure risk, Doc? How do we measure risk?
That's a good question.
How do I know what kind of risk I'm getting you into?
Well, let me also answer it this way, because as investors, we know that a lot of these startups, maybe out of 10 startups, 1 or 2 might be successful, and the other 8 might just flunk. The point I'm trying to make is that it's risky business, highly risky business. So that's why positioning of the investment is very important. So that's why we give little portions to have investment, so that if we lose, it's not too bad, because I can't overemphasize this. Startups are very, very high risky business. So how do we measure? There are people, because it depends on the field, whether it's biotech or it's agriculture, whatever. So we look for experts in those fields and say, we want to invest in this project. Maybe it's a particular fruit or a particular plant. In your knowledge, in your field, what are the chances of success? Or you might say, well, maybe it's a macadamia nuts project, and the others who are already in the business. So we consult and we measure risk based on knowledge. We look for people who have knowledge in this particular projects, because even as an investor, you can't know everything. You don't know everything anyway. So you always consult. That's how we measure risk, by consulting experts in the field, people who are technically sound, and people who understand the market also, and all the logistics. So for me, that's what I do. I'm always consulting other people to help with my investments.
Great. So consulting is very important. So you would you say it's very important to invest in a business that you are in a sector or a business that you're very knowledgeable in?
That's always the best. That's always the best, because if you invest in something you don't understand, you're taking maybe a huge risk, and your chance of success are not very high. So it would be foolhardy to go into a field that you have very little knowledge about. So one is encouraged to go into a field they're au fait with. And also, if you don't, but you've done lots of homework, you've done lots of studying to understand what you're trying to do before you do it.
The question continues to talk about political risk, how to handle that for a small coming up emerging entrepreneur. I like using the word emerging. How can one deal with that?
Well, Betha, this is very real. This is very real. Now, having said that, I'm Zimbabwean. I live in Zimbabwe. Although I've lived overseas, I live in a country where politics is always on the forefront. Here's my honest feeling and my experience. Despite everything else we talk about, the negative things we can talk about our countries in Africa, the opportunities are amazing. I had a visitor yesterday who lives in England, is doing very well. I think they're into care business and they're making millions over there. The things that you can do, say in Zimbabwe, and I think that can apply to most of our African countries, whether it be Sierra Leone or Kenya and so on, it's very difficult to do the same things elsewhere, like in Europe, because ours is virgin territory. This is like the Wild West. So we can do so many things and get a huge, reap huge benefits and huge revenues from what we do. So yes, the political risk is there. But if you are not a politician yourself, because that's one thing that you have to be careful about. If you want to run your business, you go to your project and you try to dabble in politics, chances are that the politicians will get you, and then your project doesn't really take off. So I think if you decide you're going to be an entrepreneur, I think it's better to concentrate on that. And you take advantage of your environment. And I bear witness to the fact that what we can do in our countries in Africa, we cannot do those things elsewhere. We privilege right now, despite all the other problems that we have. In fact, the fact that we have all these problems with water, electricity, and so on, those are opportunities for entrepreneurs to get involved in, and they'll reap huge profits. That's my feeling about political risk.
I think this will tie in with the next question or comment. What aspects are put into consideration for an investor to feel comfortable to see that the project is worth an investment? And do you look at country policies on ease to do business? So I would advise someone to consider the policies and play at a distance with the politics. Right. So our next question is Africa ready for the technology revolution? I have a project I'm working on, and at every turn, potential clients always raise issues about not being ready to adopt new things and wanting to maintain the status quo. So is Africa ready for technology and digitalization in your...
Well, Beth, forget about the politics and the leaders. We are talking about the youth. And we are saying that Africa, our countries belong to the youth. The future belongs to the youth. So now there's this talk about the fourth industrial revolution. I think all young people in Africa must be well versed with the modern technology, must be well versed with blockchain technology, with cryptocurrencies and all these smart contracts and so on. They must be well versed with DeFi, the decentralized finance, with dApps, the decentralized applications. They really have, they have no choice. The only way we can leapfrog other places, other countries, and the only way we can compete fairly with other nations, especially those in the developed countries, is if we grasp this technology, embrace it, and run with it. And there's absolutely no reason why you can't, why we shouldn't. I mean, I got involved with this technology of last year, and my investments, I've never done so well with investments than I've done with blockchain technology. So everyone can do it. I mean, you see, I'm a doctor, but it means anybody else, maybe a lawyer, maybe an artist, maybe a student, anybody, even those in agriculture, should get involved with this technology, because, you know, the smart contracts affect every type of industry, you know, whether it's finance, it's agriculture, it's whatever you can think of. Blockchain technology is good answers for that. So we have no choice but to embrace it.
Great. And get the skills earlier on in your enterprise. The next question is, do you think a healthcare institution, that is clinics or hospitals, should have a going public as its exit plan, since some of the institutions double up as social institutions? So we're very passionate about social entrepreneurship, social business, and it's a model that we are teaching our entrepreneurs to build and be conscious of their communities and how they build the communities around them in terms of skills and job creation. So can a health institution double up as a social institution, and would going public work as an exit plan?
Yes, I think so. I think so. Well, first of all, as a social enterprise, I've been to India many times, and they have these hospitals, which were started privately, but also they have a social component, in the sense that those who pay. Those who cannot pay do get free treatment. But I think in India, what they've done is they make sure that the quality of the care is top-notch. So, for instance, Apollo hospitals in the Fortis and others, and these hospitals are also on the stock market. So the answer is yes, they can go public, and definitely they should have a social responsibility element, and that can be done. India has done it very well. I'm sure the countries too, but there's no reason why we couldn't do it in Africa.
Okay. Great. Mukeseli says, Yalata Academy is a startup company which aims to promote entrepreneurship through a cooperative model. Is it possible to realize our vision and possibly get investment? So they promote entrepreneurship through a cooperative model. So I think he's trying to find out maybe whether it's possible to, what maybe tips you can give him to attract investment in such a scenario.
Well, I think, as I mentioned before, it depends, this cooperative, what projects are they going to do? Are the projects well put out? Are the projects viable? Whatever projects they start on, are they likely to have mass adoption? Are they likely to bring a sizable income? And how much risk is there in these projects? And so on, those things that I've mentioned. So every project goes through that system, the fire system. It has to go through it. There is no shortcuts to it. So it's a question of, how well thought out. And of course, management is important. You can have a cooperative, but the characters involved there, their integrity, their experience, and their foresight, and their energy, all those things matter. Because nobody's just going to give money to a cooperative if the people have committed, for instance, or they don't have a good track record, or they lack the experience, or they might not have it, but how motivated are they? So all those things come in, they're important. So it's not so much the structure of the cooperative, but the actual projects that they're involved in and how they fashion those projects.
Our next question is, please share a little bit more on why cryptocurrency is an investment.
Now, it's a question of what you believe in. I know there are some people are very skeptical, and I've also heard people that in Africa, Bitcoin has a bad name in some places because there were a lot of scams. People lost money. But I was looking, I've been reading a lot about this. Before I got involved, I did lots of homework, and I joined lots of other groups, memberships where you have to pay to get information. So I sought out the information. And when you look at how companies like Google started, or Facebook, and how they've grown up exponentially, you realize that the beginning of the internet, internet was what? Exchange of information. Now, blockchain technology and these cryptocurrencies, I think this is the beginning of exchange of value. And looking at how it started, Bitcoin was $100 or even less when it started. So if it was $100, one could have easily bought 1,000 Bitcoins at that time. And then it was 200, 400, and so on. I can share this with you because, I'm sharing with youth. I got involved last year when it was 6,000. Today, Bitcoin is close to 60,000. So it's gone up 10 times, in less than a year. If I was scared, I would just start now and I've made my profits. But when you look at all the other cryptocurrencies, like Ethereum, for instance, this is the basis of most of the smart contracts. And Ethereum was quite cheap. Last year it was around 300. Now it's hovering around 2,000, and they think it's going to hit 10,000. There's so much wealth to be created in these cryptocurrencies. People are going to do very well. And of course, you've got the small ones, the other small altcoins. What I'd encourage everyone to do is to learn about it. You've got to read about it. You've got to research about it. There's so much information out there. And you can see now in the States that apart from Grayscale, but even PayPal, mutual holdings, and finance companies, even Rothschilds, through Grayscale Trust, have got into Bitcoin. Everybody, all the big guns are getting into crypto. So it'll be silly for us not to get involved. Yeah. I think this is going to be the greatest wealth transfer in the history of mankind. I mean, I'm convinced because of my reading. It could be wrong, of course, it's risky like any other investment, but I'm so convinced we are going to create a lot of wealth or make a lot of wealth from blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies.
Great. Another hospital question, I think, what kind of financing is best for a healthcare institution? That's from Nyasha. Such as a hospital, what kind of financing is best for a healthcare institution?
I think the easiest in our setups, again, if you have a very good project which is viable, pension funds. Because pension funds have lots of money. They don't even know what to do with it. They are always looking for good projects. And I'm well aware that they are very keen to get involved with hospitals, anything to do with healthcare, as long as it's genuine and it's going to be well run. Because again, that's the next thing. You can have a beautiful hospital, but it's going to be well run. So yeah, that's a quick thing, pension funds.
Right. There's a question which I would like to link with the one from Samson from Ghana, which basically says, give us a practical example of how to pitch to strategic investors. And I think you can, once again, the risk aspect comes in, and Samson is saying, how can I, just a few tips maybe on how to analyze risk profile. I know we've touched on risk quite a lot, risk profile of a business. So I think maybe 2 or 3 practical tips that would capture Dr. Guramatunhu's attention for those who've just joined us.
Well, Samson, the thing is, it depends really on what project it is. As I said, personally, the way I assess risk is based on knowledge of the field that you're investing in. If it's health, we know there's some health experts, and we know countries, as I mentioned, like India, we've been doing this for years. We've invested in hospitals, they've been running hospitals, they know how viable it is. They know what would make a hospital fail or succeed. So if it's agriculture, something applies. The principles are almost the same. So I would say the way to do it is you have a project and go through those things that I mentioned, the fire system. Your project, when its full potential, what does it look like? When it's full potential, what's the income likely to be, or the income revenues? The risk. Now, you talk about the assessment of risk. I use the experts in that particular field to assess the risk. You see, I'm a doctor. If somebody comes in with a project which is outside my field, or even within my field, I still need to consult people who understand the project, who understand the economics of it, the risks involved, and so on and so forth. So my answer to this is, I always consult the experts in that in particular field that you want to invest in. From just consulting them, I'll end up knowing what the risks are involved and how high, whether they're medium or they're low, before I invest. That's what I would do.
All right, so we're rounding off our question and answer session, and the next question is around incubator and accelerator programs as something that is definitely spreading, and platforms like that will build startups. And Nelson says most startups in incubator programs have proven viable. They break even in the market, regardless of being well-funded. An example is VC4 program. What is your take on how incubator programs, or what is your comment on incubator programs and how ourselves running accelerators as E4Impact, what would you advise players like us in the industry who run incubator programs and accelerator programs in terms of preparing startups for investment?
Important question, because really our future is on these incubator programs, because we come up with an idea, we incubate it, and then things start happening. And I've got involved a little bit in the States with some better programs where guys, of course, scout for money. I'm sure you probably already do it better with your organization, but we definitely need startup programs on one side and ready investors on one side, so that we always have like a pool of money, and we'll then apportion this money correctly, so that also we reduce our chances of losing money. But we need to encourage all over the continent, because that's where our future lies, in these incubator programs. Because if they're done well, and some of them, of course, will do extremely well, but we also know there's some who might not do so well.
Yes,
so
we have been accused of developing limelight entrepreneurs who don't know their numbers. So it's a battle that we continuously fight, not to produce limelight entrepreneurs. But
yes. So Beth, I'll suggest that for those, that's why I'm saying we always need to get knowledge and information. When somebody comes up with their project, say, well, this is what I'd like to do. And we don't know whether they're limelight or not, but we look at the project, we look for experts in that particular field. We say, well, what do you think of this project? Is it likely to take off or not? And we really do our homework. We look at the project in and out, up and down. And then we want to monitor these projects very closely. And also, I'm sure you keep a record of all these guys who come up with these projects, because if they have a bad track record, you see, they want to see them again, because nobody wants to lose money on them. So we want guys who are very serious with their projects, and who got the tenacity also to see these projects through. Investors with money will be more than happy to get involved, because they know also that if the project does well, I mean, they reap huge benefits from this. So I think we need to look at these incubator projects very, very closely, and I think we should all work together on this.
Great. There are more questions, but I think let's give Dr. Guramatunhu a rest. We do have our next speaker, Stefano, coming through, and my takeaway from this session is what is the full potential? What is the full potential of your project? What would it look like when it's at its peak? So, looking at income, risk, and the effort that you've put in. Approach experts to assist you to assess in areas that you're not knowledgeable, build knowledge, do your research. That was my takeaway. We do have Stefano coming in. Thank you very much, Doc. Please hold on. We do have more questions coming in. Right. So unfortunately, I've just been told that our next speaker has faced some problems and won't be able to join us, but all the same, so we will carry on and discuss. Our webinars are most important to us because we give an opportunity to our participants to ask questions and be able to get knowledge from you. So I think our next question is actually from Malvin. Malvin says, with the challenges that our banking and overall financial systems are facing, for example, in Zimbabwe, how can a company position itself to attract capital from investors, especially retail investors? How can you influence retail investors to invest in third-party investments?
Yeah, a very relevant question, that. You see, one of the things that once you get involved in cryptocurrencies and the blockchain technology, is you're going to realize that the banking system, the financial system as we know it, is going to become more and more irrelevant as blockchain technology develops, because you can now borrow money on blockchain technology, and everything is there are no third parties. the systems that have been used by financiers before to block people they don't like. Zimbabwe, for instance, because of sanctions, it's very difficult to borrow money. But you've seen that countries like Venezuela or Iran, which also have under sanction from the US, they are mining Bitcoin and they're trading Bitcoin. So for people like Marvin, young guys, you need to open your minds a bit wider. That there are things now that we can do that we couldn't do before because of the status quo, which is there right now. If you bank your money today, even in Europe or in the States, you'll be lucky to get 1% or 2%. But you can get 10% or even 15% with the blockchain technology. So you can actually also borrow money through blockchain technology. And there are all these smart contracts now. So basically, I'm throwing back to you to say, please do some homework now and get onto this fourth industrial revolution, get onto this new technology, and there's lots of information there, and they're making life easier, much easier for the common men like you and me. So let's get into that. Banks, they make a lot of money from even poor people, because they take your money, you get very little interest, but they then lend it out at very high interest. So if you're an entrepreneur, some of these interests, I know for Zimbabwe it's about around 40%. Who's going to do a business that gives you more than 40%? That's difficult. So yes, we have to find ways around it. And I think what you're doing now with the fact that we have a panel and we can discuss these things, we're trying to open minds so that people start thinking differently and definitely latch on to new technology and easier ways of finding solutions to the problems that we have.
Great. I'm a mentor, very passionate about mentorship and how it builds the person, how it create. I'm passionate about mentorship programs that balance the personal being and the professional or entrepreneur in terms of their endeavors. What can you say as an investor is important in terms of the soft skills? They say investors invest in people. What advice can you give around what soft skills I can build to be able to attract and keep a good investor?
Well, the bottom line is we're all human beings. And there are those basic values that we all appreciate. Somebody who's honest, trustworthy, they keep their word, and they will deliver on time. You said they probably say, okay, expectations, and they meet those expectations. And it's important to be likable because people do business with people they like. If somebody is very cantankerous and just they're always grumpy and so on, even an investor, don't put your money on such a person, So just be a nice, decent human being. A pleasure to work with. That goes a long way in somebody wanting to invest in you. But if you're always negative, and there are people like that, they're always negative about their country, their family, their friends, and so on. Well, after some time, people just kind of get bored and they just don't invest in people like that. So be just a decent, good human being, likable.
Great. Douglas is saying, very interesting discussion. How can we access the recording? I just want to announce to everyone, the recording will be on the E4Impact YouTube channel in 2 weeks. So take note of that for those who have missed part of the discussion. And thank you for that. You found it very interesting. I have a question here again. So how, as a startup, can one navigate beyond middle class market to the level of base pyramid market, which are the large portion of the market share in Africa? So the market of a startup, and I think you talked about being able to do mass adoption, which is scaling your initiative. So he's asking for ways in which you can move to the fortune at the bottom of the pyramid, if we had to say.
You know, it's important to remember that when we start projects, we are trying to solve society's problems. That's what entrepreneurs do. And so wherever you are in your own locality, you can look at the problems that the common man has. That's ordinary people. What is their problem? Is it food? Is it water? What is it? Maybe access to education? Or is it access to health? You ask those questions and you provide the answers. And if it's a common problem that affects the majority of the people around you, or in your country, or in your village, or in your city, if you provide the solution, then there's going to be mass adoption. And you are going to make a lot of money. That's the simple answer to this.
Great, thank you. So I'd like to thank you very much for sharing all your knowledge, your expertise, and your time. It's amazing. The questions keep coming in. Definitely will avail them to you and put them up on the platform. So thank you very much. And once again, we would want to encourage all our participants here to take note of the points that have been raised: income, how to assess your risk, your effort. And I see that Stefano has joined us. Hello.
Hello, everyone, and real apologies for being late, but I mean, I have little control on my agenda. This is.
No, understood. We're just grateful that you could join us. We've enjoyed Dr. Guramatunhu sharing with us his experiences and encouraging us to go digital and look forward to the future and how technology can scale our businesses. So
and I really regret having missed his presentation.
No. We will be up in 2 weeks. Look, we would maybe just allow you to share just 2 minutes of your thoughts. Maybe if I can just give a background. I think an area that we didn't maybe cover a lot is on VCs, and you have been a forefront of an European VC for the last 10 years. Maybe just share. Our entrepreneurs are coming in at idea stage, at a startup stage, and at growth stage. What would you tell an entrepreneur at idea stage to build into their business model to be able to attract a venture capitalist company?
Well, I think, and first of all, again, thank you for the opportunity to share at least a couple of comments, and hope that my 2 cents or any use for those who are listening. More than telling what they should include in their business model, I would like to tell them what approach they should have if they want to make something meaningful. And by being meaningful, it definitely should be scalable and dimensionally big, because at the end of the day, I'm convinced that the impact you can have is also a function of the number of people you can solve problems to. And that goes, I think, very much in line with the comment that I heard at the very end of the presentation before that preceded me. That is, you need to find the way to make your solution scalable by using technology and allowing the problem you want to solve to be solved by a technology that can be adapted to a large number of people. And if you are able to do that and to really design your business proposition in a way that is inherently scalable by using technology, then you've done, I mean, 80% of what you should do to attract VCs and external investors. Because at the end of the day, us as, again, institutional or professional investors are looking only for solutions that are really scalable and that can reach size and dimension, because that, again, is the only way to solve problems at scale. And also by doing that, you should always take into consideration what your counterpart on the other side of the table is looking at and what he's driven to. So by understanding that we as investor only look at things that are scalable, then you also understand how to actually talk to us investors and how to propose what you have in mind to us from the beginning, from the very early days of what you're doing, of the setup of your business, or when you're really thinking at how to develop and build up what you have in mind. This is, to me, the most crucial thing.
Okay, great. I once met a gentleman who talked about the kind of investor that you need. If you have a market, if you have a minimum viable product in place, go for a business angel investor. If you are still looking for strategic partners, you're still looking for a market, you look for a different type. So maybe you could just dig into the VC equation for us and just share a few nuggets on how to achieve the VC equation in terms of investment.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and this goes back also to what I was saying. Understanding who you have in front of you and who you're talking to when you are discussing with an investor is key. And understanding if it is an angel investor or a seed fund manager, an early stage fund manager, an impact fund manager, all those, and as you said, an industrial investor, all those players have different mindset, different goals, and then different targets they need to achieve in the investment they do. So again, understanding who you have in front of you and what is the driver of his decision or her decision to make an investment is paramount. And you also always need to consider that for a professional investor, and now I'm talking about the kind of approach that I will have while meeting an entrepreneur, we always need to have at least a chance for any company we invest in that specific company returns the money of the whole fund that I'm managing. So if I'm managing 100 million fund and I invest 1 million in a single company, I must be at least again have some chances that 1 million returns the whole fund. So it really needs to be a scalable project, a scalable proposition that in some scenarios that are not completely off the probabilities of becoming true, that single investment returns the whole fund. And that goes back to scalability. That is the key. Scalability is the only way that can make a single investment in a portion of a fund that I'm managing return the whole fund in over the lifetime of my investment. So usually the equation that we use when we evaluate a portfolio of investment is based on the assumption that 80% of the companies I invest in will not make it to return capital, and all the returns that I have are based on just 20% of the companies I invest in, and within those 20%, 80% will give me an average return, and just 20% of the 20% will really be investments that I can consider successful and really make it to become again scalable and to return my investment, but also become solid players in their specific industries or sectors, and with the innovative solutions that they are building or deploying.
Great. So I see a lot of need to scale and innovation, and the need to think. When I think of innovation, I think of how to make it affordable, accessible. I think of how to save time, make it real time, how to become more efficient. So I see scalability an issue. Dr. Guramatunhu also emphasized on that, mass adoption. I asked Dr. Guramatunhu, I think this will be my last question, so that we catch our time. I asked him about investors investing in people and the soft skills an entrepreneur needs to build. I'll rephrase it a little bit for you and say, I'm a visionary, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm building a team, and I intend to attract. I mean, what tips would you give on partnerships and building a team that would attract an investor?
I think that to me.
Yes.
Yeah, no,
That's your last one. That's your last question. Any tips on how to build a team?
I completely agree with the point that investors, especially in the early stages, at seed and early stage, must invest in people. I mean, it's more than 50% of the investment, because nobody has a crystal ball and can understand what it will really be the trajectory of a company. And the last 12 months has been the best proof of that for the world, because nobody could anticipate a pandemic, and all the plans that everybody was spending time in drafting until February 2020 have been completely capsized. But if you have valuable people on top of a project, a company, then you can make something good also of a bad market, a negative, macroeconomic situation. And it's always people that solve problems and not business models. So on that, I completely agree. And also attracting the right talent, since businesses are made of people, is the most critical thing that everybody should be busy with from day one. So having the right co-founder or the right first hire, and also incentivizing people in the right way. And I think that equity is the best thing to incentivize people, especially in the very early days, because in that way you can make sure that the people that is working side by side with you is really pedaling in the same direction as you are, and with the same goals and the same incentives, which is what aligns interests the most. And maybe this is the first thing you should do. So attracting the right people is also attracting the people that you can make sure is really pedaling your direction. So when you want to structure a contract, make sure that you give the right weight to equity incentives, because if you want a talent and the talent accept that kind of remuneration, it's a good proof that that talent is willing to commit herself to what you're doing completely, and that's the most critical thing. It's equal to competencies, the willingness to really work hard and work from, I mean, in an entrepreneurial mindset, and not just as employees, which in a small or I mean in a startup just doesn't work.
Thank you very much, and thank you for making it, Stefano. It's a very an honor to have you
for having
yes.
Part of the webinar.
Thank you very much. So so thank you very much for informative webinar. Good to hear Dr. Guramatunhu and Stefano. Loved the comments. That's from Divya and Vivian. And the last question which came in, which I will answer in conclusion, is how do we know investors are dependable and fulfill their commitments? I think them taking time out to come in here and be with us is something that I feel of their busy schedules to come and commit their time to share all the knowledge that they've shared with us today. I'd like to thank both of you for coming through this evening. And I would like to emphasize that we're back next week, Tuesday, same time, and we carry on with Innovation Boot Camp, and we learn how to build business models. We learn how to pitch to investors and know investors' criteria, and we learn how to pitch. And that's our next webinar, knowing how to pitch to the investors that we've met today, and who have shared us their valuable knowledge, which they've developed over many years. So I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you both, and just once again share my slides just to emphasize the E4Impact colleagues that you can contact in this in Rwanda, in Ghana, in Egypt, in Ethiopia. To join our programs in Ghana, you can contact Andrews. We will share all the details in the chat room at the end of the webinar. Farida in Egypt, and we have in Ethiopia, Mikedela, and in Rwanda, Benjamin, and Eswatini, Sandile, they're all waiting to meet you and to share more information about the E4Impact programs. Have a very good evening to everyone, and please stay safe and healthy. Good night. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Goodbye. Thank you. Yeah.